Hey everyone! In today's video, we'll continue our streak on new era update things. This is basically a direct follow-up to my Milestone of Radiance video from yesterday. So the topic of today is the ML5s that we are getting, or that you are getting, because I'm not getting any. I have all the ML5s in the game. There's a minimum of 10. Moria, one of my fellow creators, made a very comprehensive video about the expected rewards, and he calculated it, and the average you'll be getting with upgrades, because every chest can upgrade, right? We talked about this in our video. So bronze has 25, silver has 20%, and the gold chest has a 10% to upgrade to the next subsequent tier. And technically speaking, you could upgrade all the way from bronze to diamond to get a number 5. So he came down on 11 Moonlight 5 stars that you would get on average here. But today's topic is we're just gonna take the guaranteed, and we are all guaranteed 10 Moonlight 5 stars. And that's especially considering new players. So this video is more aimed at new players that don't have all these ML5s. Because Moonlight 5 stars are basically one of the most potent units in the game, like New Moon Luna, for example. Lua used to be extremely strong, but we've got Witch of the Mid Tenebria, who's also super strong, but she's not eligible in this list, so keep that in mind. But still, units such as Spirit Eye is super strong even today. Rossetti, Lionheart, very good picks. Yulha sadly not eligible, but there's a lot of good units. And in this video, I'll be going over all these good units. So I already prepared a tier list. Let me make this top 10 ML5s from Milestone of Radiance. So we are all prepared, and I'll switch the capture to my display capture right now. So let's put the game in the background. And here is a list of all the eligible Moonlight 5 stars on the right hand side of the screen. And on the bottom screen, I have the not eligible time frame, and the order is in which the units were released. So Eins Olgon was a collaboration unit that came with what was the anime called? Overlord. And after that, we got Genesis Rush. I don't know whether I believe Genesis Rush should be somewhere here. I'm not quite sure whether he came before or after Tenebria, but it doesn't matter. Both of those are not eligible to pick. Now, the cutoff for the Moonlight 5 stars from the Milestone of Radiance is Successor Teiyu. And in order, we got the Moonlight 5 stars that are not eligible that way. So it's Arunka, it's Disciplinary Prefect Arya, Witch of the Mid Tenebria, Lady of the Scales, Skull Nurse Yoha, Shepherd Dien, Monarch Isteria, the latest one, Nodos, very obvious, and Salome, the next ML5 that we're getting on April 23rd, or as I'd like to call her, Salami. But those are not eligible, but we still have plenty of units to go through. And I'll pick 10 out of those that are extremely strong, even in today's meta. And that's the point. So what we're going here for is versatility on the one side and performance on the other side. Now, you may choose other units just for appearance, for example, for their amazing cutscenes. Like if I were to go by cutscene, I'd put Luna at the very top, because Luna has one of the best cutscenes in the game. Now, the newer units, especially Nodos, is really cool. Iseria I find super good, and there's plenty. Even the RGB animations these days, like Perfuma Biblis, super amazing, design wise and cut-in wise. So it's really good. But yeah, let's check out all the list of units. So we've got a top 10 units that are absolutely meta, that are super versatile, that are performing extremely well in today's meta. Now, this list is only a timestamp, so to say, because the meta can change and it will change eventually, especially when Salome releases on April 23rd. Depending on what she does, we only know that she has a copy ability where she copies a unit of your choosing from the enemy side, and then you immediately get to press a button of that unit. So you could, for example, copy Genesis Ras, you gain an extra turn, or it is designed as an extra turn, but we don't know if it's actually an extra turn, and then you get to press S3. Super cool ability. We don't know if it's her S2 or even S3, but we'll have to see her kit. And depending on what her kit does, this entire tier list might be obsolete by April 23rd, but that's how the cookie crumbles in a gacha game, in a PvE game with constant releases of new units. So always take this with a grain of salt. This is just a momentary snapshot of what the meta is today. And it won't necessarily mean it's going to be that way in 3 weeks, in a month, in 2 months, what have you. With that said, let's get rolling. So we'll start with Abyssal Euthine. Don't pick. She's completely fallen off. One could say she's niche because we've got a lot of CR push, but at this point she has fallen down so much so that I would say she needs an EE, that she comes back to the meta. Now, Ambitious Tywin, he is niche. With all these debuffers these days, and especially the latest cleave with Corley, he has a niche usage, especially against Briar Cleave, where you can make use of him. So I'll put him in the niche tier, but he's not that strong in general, because he also lacks so much stuff. He also is in dire need of an EE, honestly. But yeah, still a niche pick for very, very specific comps. Apocalypse Ravi is very good. I wouldn't put her in the niche tier, but she's still very good. And if you catch somebody off guard where he or she cannot deal with Apocalypse Ravi because she has pen resistance, for example, innately when you have her EE. So Ravi can actually work very fine, very well, and she's still very good in that case. Now, Arby Bildred, very niche, don't pick him. Same applies for Archdemon Shadow. Too few users. Don't pick Architect Leica, she's just not good. Now, she had a brief moment where she was a decent pick against Setsuka, but that required a huge setup. You are still prone to 15% no, not 15% because you can solve on her, but she just was a one-trick pony. She deletes one unit and that's it, and she got hard countered by Moonlight enough, so it's just not worth it. Astromancer Elena, I'll put her in a niche pick. Had it been before Iseria, she'd be don't pick. She's a niche pick these days. She can work against Monarch Iseria, so when you face Monarch Iseria on the ladder and the enemy has pre-banned Mort, for example, because he wants to force Monarch Iseria, Astromancer Elena can be a decent pick. But as of today, we have Zeno. Zeno is just a passive bot, but he works very well. Sorry, that's against Setsuka. I'm tripping. So Elena is still a viable pick against Iseria, but Moonlight Luna is actually better. Bellion, top 10. Easily still one of the best units in the game, just for the ability or the passive that she seals off soul burns entirely, and she completely disables you from getting any souls. So she dismantles Frieren very quickly. She's still one of the best units, and you will see plenty of cleavers, especially Zeo cleavers, that pre-ban Belian, and that tells you everything you need to know. Belian is still an incredible pick to this day. Blood Moon Haste has completely fallen off. Don't pick him. Briar Witch Iseria, top 10 easily. She's super good, but hard to build, I'll give you that. But if you just plan to go to Masters League, for example, even if you have at 300 speed, and getting to 300 speed these days, it's not that hard, honestly, because she has an EE. Once you get that EE for her, it's up to 10 speed. It makes gearing her a lot easier, especially for speed. Bystander Biome. I'm torn on this unit. Sometimes she works very well, sometimes she doesn't work at all. So I'll put her in a very good tier because against debuffer teams with Witch of the Mere Tenebria, she can work very well, but it's hard to pull off. Closer Charles, don't pick, he's trash. Commander Pavel, niche tier, he works. It's hard to say between very good and I probably should make this into a good tier because very good is stretching it a little bit, especially with all the units coming up. So Commander Pavel is good, especially paired with Briarwish Iceria. And if you pick Briarwish Iceria, I hope you were playing for the Freerin color because Briarwish Iceria plus Freerin is actually a turbo strong comp. But if you're actually a new player who started it since January, you don't have Freerin, and that means that Commander Pavel is just good or potentially even niche. So technically speaking, there should be a tier between good and niche, but there isn't. So I'll put him into good because he's actually still pretty good. He also has the ability to ignore damage sharing, which against Lady of the Scales is very helpful. Conqueror Lilias, she's just good. Now, if you have her at 320 speed, she's very strong, but her niche, she's just niche because she gets hard countered by Moon Bunny Dominion, who A pushes and B puts up skill effect nullifier and skill null, meaning the enemy team, the enemy team who has the Conqueror Lilias can't do anything anymore. Corvus or Dark Corvus, very niche pick. I'd even go as far as to say don't pick him because he's just not useful. Death Dealer Ray, niche, can be useful, but most of the time isn't because Schneel is a unit and Schneel hard shuts down him. Same for Moon Bunny Dominion, who also hard shuts down him these days. So there's no real merit, but he is still a decent niche pick that you can off-pick on 4-5, for example. He is also a viable pick into Harseticoms when you have Zero on 3 and pick DDR combined with Queen's Whistle. That way you can ensure your second and third turn, take first turn prior in a House Steady matchup and win that game this way. So yeah, he works, but it's still a niche pick. Desert Jewel Bazaar, don't pick him, he's bad. Designer Lilibet, I'll put her in good tier. She would also fit in niche tier, but since we are in a debuffer heavy meta, Designer Lilibet is actually decent, especially against Calling comps, which debuff you to the abyss and beyond. She has her merits, but she needs the survivability because the archetype Callie, she actually deals a lot of damage on her S3. So Designer a little bit won't be able to deal with comps on her own, but rest assured, when she works very well. Dragon Bride Senya, don't pick, not worth it. Dragon King Sharoon, very niche. I'd say she has her uses against Racer Sigrid or Flagbearer Sigrid, but Flagbearer Sigrid is not forced to press S3. In Arena, Sharoon works very well, but if you're playing RTA, she's easily counted because the Flagbearer Sigrid can just S2 into her, and then she's all of a sudden dead, and on the next turn, the Racer Sigrid can just S3, and then you're still liking a unit. The next one, Imperial enough, top 10. No doubt about it. This unit is super versatile. Her performance is through the roof. The innate ability to reduce penetration damage. Genesis Wrath comes to mind. Emma Haste comes to mind. Dark Corvus comes to mind just from this list. So there's plenty of units that she entirely shuts down. And there's two ways to build Empyrean enough. One is the classic root immunity set plus protection set, and Aureus as an artifact just to protect the team, and that's super viable. The other option is you go destruction set and immunity set, same thing basically, and just deal additional chip damage to help your team to just provide that little bit more oomph, because believe it or not, Imperial enough hits pretty hard on her S3. Then we've got Eternal Wanderer Lundvik. He's good. He's niche. Sorry, not good. He's niche in Zero Cleave. He doesn't work usually because most of the time you're facing an Arya or you're facing a Belian, and then all of a sudden Eternal Wanderer Lundvik does nothing. Faithless Lydica. I wish I could say better things about her, but don't pick. She badly needs an EE. Otherwise, she's just not viable in today's game. FCC, these days, just a niche pick. The damage output from units has become so high, and Maid Chloe has taken her spot in terms of mitigating Marina damage, for example, that FCC all of a sudden just doesn't have a place in the meta anymore. Versatility, sad to say, but yeah, you can pick her. She shuts down all the fast units now. When you pick her, you have to expect the enemy to always pre-ban her in RTA. So there's that point that you have to consider when you get her city. Yes, you should be happy because she's technically speaking a very good unit. On the other hand, she's most of the time pre-banned. But I'll give you this. Because I have her city still in use. Let's move into the game, and I use her in Guild War. So I haven't done my Guild War today, as you can see, but I am using her city in my own defense, and it's performing well. So this is the defense here that I use. It's a trap house city, I have to say, that has knowledge seed. She's on highest defense. So whenever somebody uses, for example, I believe somebody entered on one day, into this, for example. This comp aims to take second turn prior, right? So my house city goes always. The Aram uses her passive S2, which gives everybody, I forgot the buff's name, Vigor, and that triggers bystander the Samach Wayong, because first of all, she's going to S2, which is a passive, because somebody used a non-attack skill. And because my Hasedi is highest defense, that Hwayong jumps into Hasedi. Hasedi is on Knowledge Seed. Knowledge Seed provides buffs to the party, such as, it's a random buff, I should mention. It can be evasion, it can be anti-crit. And if either lands on Notos or Illinov, you cannot win against this team anymore. And this happened to the enemy. He jumped into our city. Our city probably provided evasion or what's it called? Anti-crit. And all of a sudden, this team auto loses. And as you can tell, he gave up. So you cannot win this if our city is trapping. So that's one way to beat this call. And it's very strong. So that's why I put her city into the top 10. Hellion Lure. Now, I might be biased, but Hellion Lure, especially with all the units coming out these days, she's a very strong pick. But she's not top 10, I'd say. Maybe we will change our mind because I don't believe we will get to 10 units in the top. So naturally, we'll take those in the good tier and move them up into the list. But for now, I'd say Hellion Lure is only in the good tier because A, the gearing requirements for her are actually insane, and B, she's easily countered. You cannot pick her on 1, 2, or 3 because then you will run into Aram and other units that ruin her playstyle. So she's more of a 4-5 pick, even potentially, I'd say even only slot 5 in RTA. But she could actually make it into the top 10. Judge Kisei, don't pick. She's not good. Last Rider Crow. He's one of those units that we'll have to see. I'll put him in good tier because he has incredible usage when you use him with the artifact Crown of Glory, because that allows him, whenever he suffers an AoE attack or the team suffers an AoE attack, it steals souls from the enemy team. And that can help you tremendously against units such as Freerun, who very much rely on soul gains, on soul in general. So Last Rider Crow is a good unit. So is Lionheart Sirmia. She helps against a lot of units in today's meta, so she's good. Sadly, Little Queen Charlotte, don't pick her, she's just not good. Lone Crescent Bellona. I would not have thought this to be the case, but she's one of the top 10. She is a super, super strong contender against Notos these days, because Notos has a hard time hitting Bellona. Bellona's recent buff was that she gains 15% evasion per unit alive, and that includes herself. So on a team of 4 in RTA, for example, she has 60% evasion naturally. Now, if you play her with Setsuka, for example, which you should always do, whenever you pick Bellona, you should also always pick Setsuka, because that means you have 90% evasion. And that means Notos is going to have a very, very hard time getting through Bellona, getting through Setsuka, and the enemy team will be at a huge disadvantage because Bellona A injures now, and she still deals a lot of damage, and her S3 now scaled off of the injuries suffered on the enemy, meaning she's gonna deal a lot of damage. So yeah, Bellona easily top 10 these days. So is Lone Wolf Para, super strong unit, pairs extremely well with Lone Crescent Bellona, because when Lone Wolf Para presses her S3, she provides a 20% evasion buff that cannot be stripped other than by Nodos. And it's just really good. And the tempo she provides is extremely valuable to the team. So yeah, she's not even that hard to build, which is the funny part. Mate Chloe, still one of the top tier units, no doubt about it, very strong. So we've got 3, 6, 7 units, 3 more spots to go. And I already have 4 units that potentially are eligible for this. So let's see. Martial Artist Ken, don't pick. He may look cool if you're into dudes, but he's just not that viable anymore. I could put him into niche because he has some very little niche use against Shepherd of the Dark DN. No, wrong. If you have Shepherd of the Dark DN and the enemy picks Veronica, that way Martial Artist can be good, but most of the time he isn't. So it's, for me, I'll go with don't pick, but he has some very, very minute niche units. Mediator Caveric, niche, very, very niche. He can work, but you need him really fast, really tanky. If you're into dudes, he might be more viable. If you're all about appearance and you're into dudes, Caveric could be higher up, but yeah, that's about it. Navy Captain Landy, niche. Technically speaking, don't pick, but she has niche usage. The niche usage is for buff stacking. What is buff stacking? If you have a unit that provides, for example, immunity, if your unit has immunity and a barrier, say from a protection set from a unit such as Imperial Ilanav, and then you put in Navy Captain Landy, who provides everybody at the beginning of the battle an anti-crit buff, meaning you have 3 buffs on you. And units such as Flagbearer Sigrid or Witch of the Mere Tenebria, they only strip 2 buffs. And when that happens and you buff stack with 3 buffs, meaning protection set, protection or barrier, immunity and anti-crit, the immunity will never get stripped and you cannot be debuffed. That is buff stacking. So that is the niche usage that Navy Captain Landy has, but don't fret it. There is a second unit that has the same effect as her, and that is Wretched Rose. It's a 4-star Moonlight unit. She isn't that good. I would rate Navy Captain Landy a little bit higher than Wretched Rose, but rest assured, you don't lose out on anything if you don't own Navy Captain Landy. Operator Sigrid, let me see. I put FCC in the niche tier, and so is Operator Sigrid. Technically speaking, Operator Sigrid has a cool gimmick. Whenever the enemy has a shield, she deals a lot more damage on her S2. Sadly, other than Ilanav, nobody these days, maybe Veronica, has a shield, so Operator Sigrid doesn't deal much damage. Pirate Captain Flan, don't pick her. She does look cool, but nope. Same goes for Remnant Violet. Nope, he just doesn't work. Requiem Rana, did I raid Zero yet? No. But don't pick. Requiem Rana is easily solved these days. You literally cannot pick her anymore. She's just that bad. But Rain of Light, I don't think I have to say anymore. She's top 10. Her design may be old, the skill S3 may be old, so appearance-wise, you can tell that she's a very old, dated unit, but kit-wise and utility-wise, she is incredibly obnoxious. Especially when you have her EE, you can stall out games. We call this rope gaming because games all of a sudden take 50 to 100 turns just because of Ruel, who is able to stall games forever and ever. Now, Notos low-key solved her a little bit, but if you pre-ban Notos or post-ban Notos, Ruel is just super annoying. And there's this meme in the community, for those who are new, is where you play Ruel made Setsuka. So Ruel made and School Nurse Yulha, you're basically invincible. Maid Chloe can revive, Ruel can revive, and Yulha can revive, and then you pick 2 units that deal DPS, and it's just, you hate your life when you face this. Sage Ball and Cezanne, don't pick, she's bad. And here comes the first contender of, we'll have to see whether she makes the cut. Sea Phantom Politis is very good, a very strong unit that has very good usage. It all comes down on your speed, and if you're talking about new player experience, you won't be able to make a 320 Sea Phantom Politis because that is what it actually takes for her to be good. So yes, she's a perfect pick. She has a super cool appearance, and her performance and versatility are very high, but with the requirement of having extremely strong gear, so she just doesn't make the cut. Silverblade Aramentha, very niche. So is Solitaria of the Snow, one of my personal favorites in terms of looks. I just really like her looks. She's cute and all, but very niche usage, mainly against units such as not Pirate Captain Flan, but Dream like Summer Holiday or whatever her name is, Flan, the red Flan, the shooter Flan. Spaz, also very niche unit. Spectre Tenebria, don't pick her, and because she's just that bad and she's old. Spirit Iceline. Now here comes the iffy part. Spirit Iceline fits into both categories, good and top 10. I'll put in top 10, so we have 3, 6, 9 units, because A, she is just amazingly strong. When you play her in a fast build, and fast means 270 and above, which doesn't include mine is only 267. But she deals so much damage. She has a free soulburn, so she can ignore the Belian passive because she gets 1 free soulburn, regardless whether you are allowed to soulburn or not. And that means she can deal a lot of damage because her first soulburn also deals increased damage. Yeah, she's that strong. She revives allies. She puts on invincibility for 1 turn. She's just a Peter to deal with, especially if you don't have units such as Hecat on your team to deal with that passive. So yeah, Spirit Iceline, especially when you combine her with Ruel of Light, you will hate your life, and that means she's top 10. Strays, these usage, these in Cleave, Successor Teiyu, just niche usage. Actually, I'll put them in good tier because Zio and Successor Teiyu is a very prominent combo, and they're both good, so that works in that case. Same for top model Luluka. She's also a very good unit, but the gearing requirements are insane because you just don't play top model Luluka if you don't have a 310 to 320 speed with damage, and that's where the cookie crumbles. I myself cannot even make a 310 flop model Luluka on 3k plus attack and 250, 270 crit damage because my account, while it's seeded for speed and I have very high speed, I mostly have debuffer gear. So, and DPS gear I'm actually lacking. So she is very good, top model Luluka that is, but the gear requirements are insane. Sage Vivian, don't pick. Big booba girl, but hard to pull off, doesn't really do much. Twisted Eidolon Charon has very niche usage, especially against Cleave, where you can protect your Charon. This usually requires you to have Silvertide Christie to protect him with huge effect resistance, but you're still prone to full strips, ignore effect resistance stuff. So keep that in mind, but Charon has his niche usage. Urban Shadow Shu, a very low-key but high-key strong unit. She needs high speed, high bulk, and pursuit set. and you really want high gear rolls onto her that you can make her work. And that's why she kind of falls into the same trap as flop model Luluka, where you really want super high gear score. Same as bystander Wyong, to make her work, you need super high gear score. And if you're a newer player, you just can't make that work. And that leaves us with New Moon Luna, who is going to close out our tier list for top 10. So we got 3, 6, 9, 10 units. New Moon Luna is just that strong, and she works very well. Now, how do we make these units work? Let's go over these units one by one and how to build them. So first of all, we've got Belian. So I'll show you my Belian here. This is a decent Belian. I wouldn't say top of the class, but it's still good enough for me to push into legend. So we are on counter set, we are on a pursuit set, and 3F. Now the next best artifact after 3F is a Throne of Glory, a Glorious Throne, I mean. Same effect. If you missed it, that's very unfortunate, because this artifact or the Glorious Throne is pretty mandatory on her. There's another build that works on Belian, and that's a speed build. So if you wanted to go for speed build, you would still prefer speed and pursuit. You want some defense on it, and you can leave it at that. If you want, you can put in some effectiveness, but that's how it goes. And yeah, that's a very strong build. Now, as you can tell, it takes a lot of good items from my units, but that's a build you can run with, and it's going to perform very well if you want to go for speed. All right, next unit, Briar Witch Iseria. So this is my Briar. She's missing gear right now. Let's quickly fix that. Yeah, I say quickly, but it's gonna take a while. So I'll just, take the ring back from my Conqueror. It should be speed, no? Yeah, it is speed. So this is my Briar Witch. Not as fast as it used to be. If you want to have a really opener Briar Witch, you would have to go like this, and 390 speed, that's all right. Or I'd say you don't care about the attack. All you care about is the speed in this case. Ideally, you want 100 crit chance, but that means that's a little bit too much, I suppose. So 313 is what I can do. I should treble this. I could probably go higher, but the game would suggest this. 313, that's good enough. Way more than good enough for Masters. But rest assured, it's not that easy. My EE isn't maxed. Oh, it is maxed by this time. And you want Renewed Will on her. Now let me check my list. Who was next? Ilanav and Horsetti. So for Ilanav, like I mentioned, 2 viable builds. I have the protection set and immunity build with Aureus. Very good stats. You can build her on crit damage set, and the artifact is then up to you. If you're going for crit damage set, Rise of the Monarch is the next best thing. It provides defense to the party and grants a barrier whenever she takes a turn. So that's very nice. And then Harsetti, I mentioned my build earlier. So I have 2 Harsetti, one that I use for DPS, and she's on injury set and HP set, so just natural stuff. And then there's the second one, the Trap Harsetti, as I mentioned, on Knowledge Seed, which can grant all allies for 2 turns in greater attack, increased defense, increased evasion, immunity, and critical hit resistance. And whenever you play this in a defense, you want the evasion or the crit resistance. Now, ideally, you want to have this at max, because at max, this is 100% chance. I have it on my wish list, just so I have it maxed, but I haven't gotten it. And the gear doesn't really matter. All you want to have is maxed out defense, such that the Argent Wave Swiam jumps into her. All right, next on the list were, let's see, Lone Crescent, Bellona, and Peyra. Let's start with Peyra because she's high up on the list. This is my Peyra. Very classic build, nothing too fancy, honestly. 297 speed, immunity set, speed set. I could go for pursuit set, but I'd lose a little bit of bulk and a little bit of speed. So it's, at the time of recording, it's not worth it for me yet. But if I get a good piece, I will switch for sure. Now, Lone Crescent Bellona has Keep in mind, mine, as you can tell on the right-hand side, mine is in the imprint circus right now, so our stats are a little bit overblown. But yeah, this is, I guess, a decent build. I'm not wasting any crit chance. You should always use Sigurd Scythe on her. I believe I have a 27 Sigurd Scythe, yeah. So I could go for this because I'm very rarely using Milestone of Radiance these days. And I actually might switch it for RTA that starts on April 4th. But for now, this is a pretty solid build, I'd say. It works very well. I should eventually replace the purple piece because purple pieces these days, ooh, not so good. But yeah, this is as good as it gets for me for the time being. And then we've got Mate Chloe and Ruel, our two most beloved units in the RTA community. So my Mate Chloe isn't that good, I'll be honest, but she gets the job done. So she has 200 ER, that's way too much, I believe. I'd rather, and I probably should, replace this with immunity set, give her more bulk. The defense is fine, but I'd ideally want to have 3,000 or 4,000 more HP. But if you're a lower player, this is something you can actually achieve with less ER. You only need 100 ER, and that's fine when you have immunity set. The Unfading Memories, it's, I believe, is it I'm not quite sure whether this is, I believe this is a limited artifact because it's on DN and DN is a limited unit, but there's plenty of options. You could go Celestine, you could actually just go for Veritas, the new Biblis artifact. Quid's Whistle is okay. Proof of Friendship, it's limited though. There are plenty decent options. You can go for Waltz's Origin, also works very, very well, so don't sweat it. Then a Ruel of Light. Ideally, you want her on Idol's Cheer because that pushes up the highest attack ally by up to 20%. So I'm missing just one more copy. And the ideal sets for her are Reversal Set because what Reversal Set does, it doesn't show, but Reversal Set increases combat readiness when you revive. And Ruel got a new passive that allows her, that's the Spirit Lord's protection above that she applies at the start of the turn, at the battle, I mean, and that revives her with 50% HP and 50% combat readiness. So she pushes up 50 naturally from reviving, and if you have the reversal set, she pushes another 50%, meaning 100%. You're guaranteed to take the next turn, and then you can just S3 to revive another unit, or S2 herself for more longevity. So it's really good. And you want this unit to be super tanky. So I am considering dropping 50 ER or dropping ER entirely. Go for 200, 220 speed at 2.5k defense and 25k HP. This is totally overkill, but it's gonna make her extremely strong. So keep that in mind. This build, though, it worked very well in RTA last season in High Emperor, so I'm not sweating it too much. But because I'm aiming for Legend next season, I might actually switch this up to a faster, more bulkier build with less ER. And that works because at the end of the day, the most important part is when she revives, she is gonna get her turn and she's gonna make your life miserable. Okay. I remember Luna from memory, but who was the other unit? Oh yeah, Spirit Isolene. So here's the Spirit Isolene I talked about earlier. My build isn't all that good, like I said, but it works. I have a Summer Photogenic. It's a limited artifact. The next best choices are Secret Art Storm Sword. Alexa's Basket also works very well. And then another artifact that also works very well is Wind Rider. So there are options, but you want speed set. You don't necessarily need pen set. You could also go for, what's it named, Torrent set. That also works very well. But ideally, you want her at 270 speed or above, maybe even higher. 280 speed is really strong on her with the same stat line. And yeah, that's going to be hard. As you can tell, I wasted quite a lot of stats into HP. I wasted quite a lot of stats into defense, and I have 8 gear score wasted on ER. I don't need any of this. So there's still lots of room for improvement, but like I mentioned, my gear quality just doesn't allow for it at the time because I lack DPS, fast DPS gear. All right, and lastly, we've got New Moon Luna. a very strong unit. Even to this day, she fell off a little bit, but nonetheless, she can be crucial against teams such that have units that possess strong passive. Mort, for example, Monarch of the Sword Iceria, Shepherd of the Dark DN. All these units heavily rely on their S2 passives, and she shuts that down completely with Ignore ER. So you want her on speed set, and immunity set is absolutely mandatory. And why is it mandatory? Because she has a passive, the skill effect nullifier, which isn't a skill null, that is a different effect. Skill null only makes it so that one attack just does no damage. This, on the other hand, nullifies all skill additional effects from skills and artifacts, meaning Rinak, best example. When Rinak S3s into Luna, she still takes damage. But when Rinak's secondary effect of her S3, which is the AoE 7,000 fixed damage comes in, that gets nullified by this skill effect nullifier. And that makes it so potent. And when you combine this with immunity, the enemy cannot, for example, on a unit such as Zio, the enemy cannot seal her off, for example, which is very, very strong, or a debuffer. So that effect is super strong. You always want immunity at all costs. Obviously, getting her to 302 speed is not easy. As you can tell, I have 22 speed, 20 speed, 22 speed, 20, 18, and 45. So it's not easy. But even at 280, 270, that's still a good unit, because most of the time you maybe don't want Luna to take the first turn, because then the enemy has a cleanser, Para comes to mind, maybe there is a fast made Chloe, or maybe the enemy even uses Laia in this day and age. So there's good and ample reason why you don't want Luna to be this fast necessarily. But all in all, yeah, these are my top 10 units from the Moonlight 5-star Milestone of Radiance. Those are all perfectly fine in today's meta. And yes, it will hurt to not have Yulha, it will hurt to not have Lady of the Scales. But keep in mind that the upcoming custom Mystic Summon that we're getting next week, which is on April 9th, this should, April 9th, right? Yeah, April 9th. And that custom Mystic Summon will have the cutoff at including Lady of the Scales. So you will be able to get Boss Arunca, you will be able to get Disciplinary Prefect Arya, and Witch of the Mere Tenebria. Now, does it hurt to not have Yulha? Somewhat, but still getting Lady of the Scales this quickly, that's a good thing. And if we were to include Lady of the Scales, should be at the top, just like Arunca would be in the good tier, and Arya would also be in the good tier, because both of them are very strong units, and Witch of the Mere Tenebria would be in the top 10 tier as well, and probably replace Celine or Peyra in that case. But yeah, super strong units for the top 10 in terms of versatility and performance. And that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. I hope this helped make you good decisions on whom to pick and what to look out for when you're getting your Moonlight 5-stars, and when you get one of the top 10 that I chose. I hope you'll have a good time with these units, because they are super strong. So thank you all for watching. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.